Good afternoon once again, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Blocking Me in Qualifying Simulator 2018. As you can see, there are some very naughty cars in this session. We're trying to qualify here at Dragon Trail, and wouldn't you happen to know, the same team blocking at all possible opportunities, and I was unable to get a good lap in as a result. Parking on the racing line isn't acceptable, and I hope it doesn't continue in further rounds. Anyway, that leads us to be lining up 6th on the grid, a very lowly position compared to the 2nd and 3rd places we'd qualified in pre-season races in the last 2 weeks. So hopefully we can make it up to the result of 1st, which is where we finished in those 2 races. So here we are lining up P6 directly behind Dynamite. We've got Sam Sham to our left, and it looks like we've had a decent start in comparison to some of the other guys. In particular, Minardi Berger there with I think the worst start of the top 6 at least. Dynamite had a decent start. He went instantly to the left of Fubbles. Now watch here, Fubbles is a victim of a crash here. We'll see whether blame can be attributed to anyone. Certainly this last contact is my doing, but he was already sideways at that point. And we'll move on, we'll show you the replay in a second. We'll just go on for this moment to see what happens here with Dynamite, and take note of this. He brakes really early compared to me into this corner, and that'll be important later in the race. Anyhow, we'll take a quick look back at what happened with the first section, and you can see it's 3 wide. You've got Dynamite on the inside. Fubbles forces me wide. Obviously he's got a car on his inside. There's a bit more contact. I push onto the curb, but he's already sideways before this big collision, which is the one that actually spins him out. I'd already run out of track, so there wasn't much I could do, unfortunately. I think it's pretty clear from watching at least this slow-mo replay that there was either some lag involved, at least on my perspective, or perhaps it was Dynamite that actually caused the spin. Now we are up to 2nd here behind Stingray, who blocks at the last second and just costs us the momentum, gives himself a bit of a push as well as we are pushing forward, so that wasn't ideal. And once again here he goes wide, and again slows our momentum. He gets a bit of a push. We almost lose 2nd place here to Dynamite. Thankfully we didn't, and by the end of lap 2 we're able to get past Stingray, who I believe changed his tyres quite naughtily after qualifying on pole to the mediums. It seemed though that the mediums may have been the wrong choice, as he dropped back in this first stint. Holding it around the outside to complete the manoeuvre, and it looked like Dynamite followed us through. In fact, Stingray was showing in the lead even though we'd passed him. Dynamite then came through. Bit of a late attempt on the brakes there, we were able to cut back past, and right then and there the battle between Dynamite and I was started. It would continue for much of the first stint. He would have a very late attempt there on the brakes. We possibly should have been focusing on getting away from the cars behind us, but instead squabbling between ourselves, and well, that was a combination, a very odd combination of me being a bit too late on the brakes, but him being much earlier on the brakes than I was. You remember back to lap 1 where we braked at very different points. Anyway, I let him back through. Clearly, it was obviously my fault, more my fault than his fault. In the meantime, Sam Sham has gone through to the lead. You can see in the blue car, it's a bit confusing because Stingray's also in a blue car, and it shows him in the lead, but he actually is behind us. Past Dynamite we go once again, on our way back to Sam, and Sam would take not quite the optimum line through these sweepers, and that would allow us to go through. We had to back up a little bit, otherwise we'd have run to the back of him, lost the momentum ourselves and given it to him, which once again is not the ideal way of driving these GT cars. Around the outside we go into that hairpin, and into the lead we are, even though Stingray actually is displayed as the leader. Battle resumes with Dynamite. He goes a bit deep though, and relinquishes the position as we head towards this chicane, which you really can't go too wide through, so thanks for that. But the battle would conclude as he was on the inside. I wanted to pit this lap, so I waited for him to go by, ducked towards the pits, and well, if that was F1 I would be investigating that, but I don't think we're too tough on the white line limits in this league, unless Cartdu can inform me otherwise. Now as we left the pits we realised Dynamite was in the lead and we were down at 6th, having come in line astern, so he must have short-filled or not changed his tyres. Not sure which, we'll possibly should have asked him at some point. But as we try and fight our way back through the traffic, we're losing so much time because some cars who haven't pitted yet holding us up massively, and you can see the car behind is now Sam. Massive run on us towards the last turn. Thankfully, we were able to go around the outside here. It wasn't quite as deep on the brakes as some of the other drivers were, and we maintained what was a net P2 at the time. The cars in front would pit eventually, and that was 2 of them right there, and Merck would be the next lap. Into the pits we came for the second time on lap 13, going a lot earlier than some of the other guys. At that point I'd already opted for the 3-stop and undercut my way into the lead, including that 10-second lead that Dynamite had. It became a 5-second lead in my favour. So obviously he would come in once more, then I had to come in for the last time, and this time only for a 5-lap stint, so I had the super softs on and I was 18 seconds back. Tough proposition, you have to say. Anyway, we closed it on Stingray. He was the first one, the pole sitter. Easy. You could go so much deeper on the brakes on the softer compound of tyre. And then it was just Dynamite left, but there just weren't enough laps for me to catch up. Unfortunately, our first loss in this car on this game, it comes in the actual first race, but is for points. So there you go. Congratulations to Dynamite. We did cut that gap down quite a lot, but it wasn't enough. Possibly should have gone a bit earlier into the pits on the first stint. But, you can always think of these things in hindsight. We ended up P2, not the worst result. So we'll look forward to the next race. I've been Jacko. See you then.